Any other things about the Senate or the House budget that might come to mind?
I think just making that real contrast very clear that they're balancing it very heavily on tax increases, and that's been the real difference between the three different versions of the budget going around right now.
As a rule of thumb, if you put the governor's budget and the House and the Senate budget, they are diametrically opposed vis-a-vis tax increases. And our budget obviously is siding with the governor's budget because we believe we don't have to have the GT tax, nor do we have these job killer taxes that basically are going to make it harder for small businesses to keep their employees. 80% of all the people employed in the state of Hawaii are employed in the private sector. 43,000 people are unemployed, and 99% of those are in the private sector. We're very concerned that as we protect government and we jeopardize the private sector, government is going to have to end up paying all the unemployment taxes, all the other social services that the unemployment rolls are going to require. So it's a difficult call, but it's where we think with laser precision, budgets can be taxed, budgets can be crafted, and taxes can be delayed. And looking at the whole budget, Beth, I've seen the numbers, and basically we're at revenues at about 2007 levels. And common sense things tell me we should be at expenditures at 2007 levels. So what we're going to walk through as we get into the balanced budget from the Minority Caucus is how we actually do some replacement of expenditures with revenues, and I think some rather creative things that we've done. Let me just open up with one statement, and that is one of the motivating factors, other than my desire to get a budget over the last 10 years that is user-friendly. You can actually get into it with an Excel sheet, and you can, like some of you do on an Excel sheet when you have a profit and loss or a cash flow statement. You change an assumption, you change the ending balance. And for 10 years I wanted to do that as a member of the Finance Committee, as a member of this caucus, and it's only when Beth has come along that we were able to do it, that we've actually got an interactive, user-friendly way of looking at all the different budget items, the major items in revenues and the major choices and expenses, to come up with a budget. But before we get into that, I want to mention that, you know, the governor gave a budget and the House gave a budget, and the Senate, I mean, the House budget is only 60 million more cuts than the governor. So lest we think that, oh, the governor does something really different than the House, or the House does something really different than the governor, they're only 60 million apart. That is not a whole big amount of variance. When it comes, though, for how we're going to fill in the gaps, because the Council of Revenues is increasingly, okay, who are the Council of Revenues? Those are the professors who are on a appointed position to every every quarter to come up with a revenue projection, basically, as I said earlier, based upon GT taxes, based upon your earnings and income taxes, to show us how much money we got to spend. Your government spends everything that it's got, and that's another story and another issue, but we spend, and we're at 2009 spending levels. Probably we've kept it at 2009, but as I said, we're at 2007 revenue levels. So there's a little bit of a disjointedness. So what the Council of Revenues have said, what the Senate and the House and the governor has said, hasn't then basically been our starting point for crafting our budget for the Republican caucus.
Yeah, we took a little bit from each, and I wouldn't want anybody to think that we just automatically, like you said, it's close to the governor's and that we didn't want to raise taxes. But besides that, we took some from all the budgets and tried to kind of create a compromise, I would say.
Chose the best of each of those.
Yeah.
I can remember one, for example, in the House budget, they had increasing the number of children in the classroom, number of students in the classroom.
They did. Increasing it by one would get $18 million, and the House decided to do that. We felt like it probably wasn't a good way to go right now to touch classroom size.
Did all of you hear that? Increase the classroom size by one, and you save $18 million. Is one student worth $18 million? We think actually class sizes should be smaller. Closing of small schools, particularly Wailupe in my former district, has not been pleasant. Eventually, we should all get to those small class sizes. But that was one of the things we disagreed with. We said, keep your $18 million. Right. We're not going to put the class sizes as an option.
Yeah.
What are some other features that we should start with in mentioning what we got? Have we got some visuals that we could show the?
Yes, we can go through the Excel spreadsheet. All right. So one of the big things that we did was we thought that we needed more agriculture inspectors. And we wanted to stay away from reducing that because they're the ones that take care of invasive species.
That was the one the governor cut, right?
So, yes.
That was in the governor's budget as something to take back. So we're going to put those back in. Is it true anything that's got yellow has been the choices that we will
Everything that has yellow is the choices that we made in our budget. Now, let me actually go back a second and say that right now, what we did was we started with backing out things from the governor's budget that we disagreed with.
Okay.
Sorry, this will take me a second. Okay. Now, when you do that, we're looking at huge deficits. So I wouldn't want anybody to get online and look at the spreadsheet and get really, really nervous.
You guys are in red ink big time.
Right. But as we go through this and start checking things off, you'll see that that starts changing. You'll see the numbers are different. And if you want, we can just go back down through this. If you
click, and then everybody keep your eyes on the numbers for the 50 point. You notice that it's going to go up and down according to what we add as our assumptions.
Right.
As it's clicked, the numbers change. Are some of those worthy of any explanation, or some of the areas that you've clicked?
A lot of these things, like, for example, what we did when we tried to go through was, if you see this one right here, AGS 901, we tried to get rid of the funds for vacant positions. Right now, some of the departments are getting monies for positions that they're not filling. And right now, we said that perhaps we should just get rid of those funds. And a lot of it is that stuff. We reduced a lot of the purchase of service contracts, and you might be able to explain purchase of service contracts.
Those are basically the contractors who have a specialty or a skill by which, instead of having somebody employed by the government to do, they would be hired on a temporary consulting basis to do that, and for a set fee or a contract fee.
Right. And what the House, and actually this is something that House Finance did a lot of, they reduced purchase of service contracts in a lot of the different departments by 20%. And we took a lot of those same cuts.
As you click, are your numbers changing up on your
They are changing. They're changing slowly.
Okay, we're going to, those
are
some small ones.
If you'd like to go to the big ones first, perhaps, make everybody feel better?
There's something yeah, let's go to some of the bigger ones so they can see how dynamic and active. And by the way, this is on the web of the Republican blog. So you go to the state legislature and you click on the minority House blog, and you will have the same thing on your screen as you're seeing now on this screen. If we could have that screen back up, please.
Okay, so for example, we've been talking a lot about using different funds, or actually we've been talking a lot about rating special funds. And I think the Republicans have made the statement, you yourself did on the floor, and said that we should be paying those funds back.
In fact, we made an amendment on the floor on this particular bill. Yes, we will use the Hurricane Relief Fund, but no, we will not rate it. We will borrow from them. And unfortunately, our colleagues saw it fit to defeat that, even though I'm convinced the people in my district, again, Hawaii Kai to Kalama Valley, you do not want that fund rated. Borrowing is okay.